national security. What we have is a mafia that owns and runs our military through fraud, that declares national security and diplomatic immunity. And, of course, it's coming out in the news that Ron Paul and Rand Paul, members of Congress, have immunity under the Constitution. Of course, the Bill of Rights gives you immunity to these out-of-control searches, but the White House says it doesn't matter. Here's Steve Watson's article. TSA directly violates U.S. Constitution by detaining Senator Rand Paul and preventing Kentucky Senator Rand Paul from flying to Washington this morning. The TSA directly violated the law as written in the U.S. Constitution. Yeah, they say he's going to miss some votes now. Yeah, well, they can put him on a no-fly list, they say, and he'll never fly again. No judge, no jury needed. And we got Article 1, Section 6 up there. I'm going to cover that when we come back, and then we'll go to your phone calls after von NotHaus leaves us. We'll get to Ed, Chris, Janice, CJ, and others coming up. Prisonplanet.tv and Infowars.com are the websites. Under a tyranny, legal activity is made illegal, and the criminals legalize their criminal activity. Tyranny is just government by criminals, by gangs. Now, this article is key at Infowars.com, and nobody's really pointing this out. The White House has weighed in and says, good job detaining Senator Paul. The Congress has already become ceremonial. Rand Paul is trying to change that and take back the constitutional powers on war, you name it. But the TSA directly violates U.S. Constitution by detaining Senator Rand Paul. See, why does the UN have diplomatic immunity? Well, out of our common law, that's how they claim that power, that they're voting. And so if people detain them or people persecute them, that could stop them from carrying out their office. And that because their work is so important, there's always criminal intrigues to try to set them up if they're not going along with what a different part of the establishment wants. But to boil it down very simply, in the Constitution, during the House or Senate being open for business, you cannot arrest or detain a senator or representative. I'm going to read this. A lot of people don't know about this, but this is diplomatic immunity, basically. Now, as soon as that is over, then it can be looked at. But I'm going to read to you from the Constitution. Now, again, you've got these pot-bellied nobodies. They got legislation in Congress where they quit calling themselves officers. They're not officers. They're not trained. They're not bonded. They've had a background check. You know about them robbing bags, all of it. We're going to our guest here in a moment. TSA directly violates U.S. Constitution by detaining Senator Rand Paul and preventing Kentucky Senator Rand Paul from flying to Washington, and he is going to miss some votes this morning. The TSA directly violated the law as written in the U.S. Constitution, but what did Bush call it, a GD piece of paper? The Constitution specifically protects federal lawmakers from being detained while en route to Washington, D.C. Article 1, Section 6 states, the senators and representatives shall in all cases, you hear that? The senators and representatives shall in all cases, this is just the law of the land though, folks. Yeah. The law of the land says the potbellies can't be sticking their hands down your pants without warrants, but they do it. The senators and representatives shall in all cases except treason, felony, and breach of the peace be privileged from the arrest during the attendance at the session. You hear that? Of their respective houses and in going to and returning from the same, traveling to and from their district. Rand Paul was traveling from his home in Louisville to attend a session in the Senate today. This is the reason the TSA officials, not servants, have since put out the talking point to the media that Rand Paul was never officially detained. These are the same folks that said they weren't strip searching old ladies and now admit they were. The same folks that always say they're not strip searching little kids, but then admit they are. Despite the fact that the senator himself confirmed that he was told to sit in a cubicle and wait without any indication of whom and when he would be allowed to leave. The Senate is back in session at 2 p.m. and votes are scheduled for 4:30. Senator Paul was allowed to board a second flight after a second screening by a TSA agents. However, it remains to be seen whether he will make it to the Capitol in time. Well, the Fourth Amendment says that they can't secretly arrest us and have us disappear, but they've signed a law saying they can, which is null and void, Marbury versus Madison and hundreds of other federal rulings. In all crimes, we're entitled to a jury, but you disappear. Do you get one with the IRS? Do you get one with CPS? They've created fake courts for the IRS, fake courts for the CPS. It's all fraud, stinking criminals. They're the criminals. You're like, oh, so what, do they violate the Constitution? Look at all the tyranny that comes along with it. You know, I want to tell listeners something, and we're going to our guest. This is life and death. This is hardcore. This is real. What have you done today to fight for liberty? What have you done today to wake somebody up? We're on over 100 AM and FM stations across the United States. If you're listening to a local AM or FM, stop your car at the red light. Tell people to tune in right now. Put flyers up all over your neighborhood. I mean, people need to hear this. Tell your friends and neighbors about Infowars.com. Get Fall the Republic. Make copies of the DVD. Put it on local access TV. I mean, we've got the most hardcore info. We need you to help us reach more people. I'm not risking my life and getting in these tyrants' faces because I'm playing games here. I'm going 110% straight on into them, and I need your support. We're all in this together. We have got to get a buzz going. There's already a huge buzz for liberty. We've got to up it and then redouble it and redouble it again. You should be doing banner hangs every day on the way to work. Wild horses shouldn't be able to drag you away going and getting a white canvas and spray painting Infowars.com on it or whatever site you think's important. Or start your own stinking site and mirror our site or other. I don't care. Fight, fight, fight. Wake people up because everybody else is angry too. The vast majority of people are awake. They feel like they're alone. We got to create such a buzz. For Ron Paul, everything else, get aggressive now. Now, your calls are coming up after our guest leaves us, but he put out an email for aid. He's a great patriot, been on many times, so we've got him on. Bernard von NotHaus. Bernard von NotHaus. I like that. I knew his name was Bernard. I've been interviewing him for like 15 years, and on my guest sheet it says Baron von NotHaus. It kind of sounds like a guy would have a name, you know, who'd be a baron, though. It's a cool name. It says Baron von NotHaus. I keep saying Baron. I'm like, his name's Bernard. And sure enough, yeah, it's Bernard von NotHaus. That's a funny one. Getting back to this is from the federal government's own website, and we'll put it up on screen here right now with the FBI seal on it. This is what the federal government put out the day that Mr. NotHaus was convicted. This is the Western District of North Carolina, FBI Federal Bureau of Investigation, U.S. Attorney's Office, March 18, 2011. Western District of North Carolina. And, of course, they waited a long time, almost record time for sentencing because the media, even the AP, even the Wall Street Journal said they read the statute and what he did was not illegal. You know, printing your own gold and silver coinage. He didn't advertise it as U.S. government or Federal Reserve stuff. But see, he put out Ron Paul coins, folks, so he had to go to jail. And here's their press release about Bernard von NotHaus. Now, listen to what they say here at the end, and we'll scroll down to the bottom. Attempts to undermine the legitimacy and legitimate currency of this country are simply a unique form of domestic terrorism. You're wondering what they're going to use the NDAA on and all this? Here it is. U.S. Attorney Tompkins said in announcing the verdict. But the good news is everybody who looked at this knows he didn't break the law. But they have kept juries of servile demons who will send anyone they're told to jail. The 2% of the time you're not convicted is when one hand doesn't know what the other's doing and you're some government narcotics trafficker and they just let you off. While these forms of anti-government activities, I'm reading from their statement, while these forms of anti-government activities do not involve violence. So they're saying it's illegal to be anti-government when your government's a bunch of criminals. While these forms of anti-government activities do not involve violence, they are every bit as insidious and represent a clear and present danger to the economic stability of this country. I thought it was the foreign banks imploding our economy in NAFTA and GATT. She added, a danger. We are determined to meet these threats through infiltration. This is a guy publicly advertising on national TV. Oh, they infiltrated. Disruption and dismantling of organizations which seek to challenge the legitimacy of our democratic form of government. Oh, yeah, don't challenge the government, and we'll put you in jail for challenging the legitimacy of the government. See, we're saying you're illegitimate, and they're saying, no, we're not illegitimate. You're going to jail. You don't like the government shipping guns into Mexico? We'll just arrest you. And they go on to celebrate how many years he's facing prison. Bernard von NotHaus, good to have you on. We're about to go to break, but you're facing sentencing soon. And I guess they sleep good at night knowing how many people they send to prison here, buddy.
Probably better than me, Alex.
Yep. Well, what's the saying about, when tyrants run things, the patriots rot in filthy jails?
I think that's the case.
Well, we're about to go to break, and it was a long intro there, but how can we help you? I guess we plead on the judge who sits on top of this fake court and ask their lordship the judge should have mistrialed it right there. I mean, I think they waited 8-9 months to do this because obviously, as you know, the news media, even the establishment dinosaurs, read the code and said what you did wasn't illegal.
Actually, Alex, we're at a critical stage in the trial right now because I'm facing sentencing up to 22 years. And so I've asked people who support the Liberty Dollar and the ideals that it represents, in other words, honest gold and silver money, to actually write a letter to Judge Voorhees asking him either to dismiss my case or to sentence me to no prison time. And if people really want to do that and they want to help, then they should actually email me, very simply, Bernard@libertydollar.org, and I will reply with the judge's address. But we really need people to write as many letters. Doesn't have to be long. Short is good, but it comes down to a show of popular support for the cause that Liberty Dollar exemplifies. That is, write the judge.
And by the way, hundreds of cities, towns, private groups have their own money.
Yes,
I mean, that's what gift cards are. But you put out a Ron Paul coin, so you need to go to jail for 22 years at taxpayer expense. And they've got people calling you a terrorist. We'll be right back. So imagine you, for decades and decades, have had the Hawaiian Royal Mint issuing commemorative coins. You start the Liberty Dollar. You promote gold and silver private currencies. Totally legal. What's illegal is creating a counterfeit of U.S. dollars, which is what the Federal Reserve did. You don't have a U.S. dollar. You have a Federal Reserve note. So it's funny. They're accusing him of what they're doing. He never acted like he was a U.S. government currency. It was all about don't trust the corrupt Federal Reserve currency. And so they went into their little jury